Well, this is the second video of the different disorders. And the first one that we had, we talked about anxiety disorders, and we said that there's three types of anxiety disorders. Panic disorder, phobias, and then other types of anxiety disorder. So we talked about panic disorders earlier, and now we're on phobias. So we said there's three different types of phobias. Agoraphobia, A-G-O-R-A-P-H-O-B-I-A. That's fear and avoidance of situations, people or places where it would be unsafe to have a panic attack. Okay, so agoraphobia means that you're going to avoid. Now listen to this again. Let's get this right, because I talked about the last tape. I said fear or avoidance of situations. Let's go one step further. Fear or avoidance of situations, people or places, all right, where it would be unsafe to have a panic attack. Wow. Well, because what's this anxiety? The anxiety is we fear that we're going to have a panic attack. We feel that we're just going to kind of lose it, and all of a sudden we're just going to kind of be vulnerable, and this whole feeling like we're just out of control. We're you know, they say like almost like you're crazy, that you just don't have control over this, and you just begin to panic. So if you have a phobia, then you stay away from situations, okay, places or people where it would be unsafe to have a panic attack. Well, let's think about that. If you're having one of those, if you've got a psychological disorder and you have anxiety disorder, then you're going to have that. You're going to have that 30 consecutive days. It's going to be pretty often. So what are you going to do? You're going to do what? Let's think about this. Okay, agoraphobia. You're going to think that every place is unsafe to have a panic attack. So you're going to reserve yourself into where somebody says, hey, you want to go out and do something? No, I better not do that. Even your job, you don't get something that's around other people. Well, what's the best thing you can do? What's the best thing you can do to avoid, okay, to try to get away from the idea that there is a fear involved, anxiety disorder, that there's a fear involved, and that is, what did we say earlier? It's really interesting, get around other people. So the number one thing people do is they reserve themselves away, and they actually get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Howard Hughes, the millionaire that made he was you know, I don't know if you've ever heard much about him, but they had a movie, and I don't really recommend the movie, but it sure shows this. Howard Hughes was this millionaire, and he makes this plane called the Blue Spruce, I believe is what it's called. He made it out of wood, this humongous plane, and he was a pilot, and so he had this big debut, and all the news people showed up, and he took off in this plane, and he took it off on a kind of a ledge of a mountain, and the plane just crashed, and it was a total disaster. And Howard Hughes, you know, they called it the crash of the Blue Spruce Goose, and kind of made fun of him a little bit. Well, he got his feelings hurt so bad, and he already had some anxiety, that he reserved to the point to where Howard Hughes went into total isolation, to where he lost his family, he'd already lost his wife, his kids. He just isolated himself to where he went into a room, and they would put food under the door. They had an opening there, and I mean, not to be gross or anything, but he would have all these pop bottles, and he would just literally urinate in the pop bottles and put them against the wall. He got to where he wanted to see absolutely no one. And the more he was in this isolation, the more what? The more panic attacks he had, the more fear he had of going out that door, the more fear he had of people, the more fear he had of trying something, the more fear of, you know, yada, 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 of everything. So getting out with people, getting a job that involves other people, going out, doing things, accomplishing things, that's how you get over this anxiety. So agoraphobia is avoiding places where you might have panic attacks. Well, you got to be really careful, and some of that's pretty legitimate. Somebody that's just going to totally, you know, freak out, yeah, they don't want to do that. But if you have mild anxiety, or you're this axis that can function in society and nobody even knows you have it, you need to be around people. You need to get out, and you need to go do. Agoraphobia, this fear or avoidance of situations that could cause panic attacks. Now, specific phobias, that's where you have, you know, that could be fear of spiders, fear of snakes, or whatever. And you say, man, I think I have that. Well, do you have an actual fear of rattlesnakes, or do you have a true caution. Do you know the imminent danger of a rattlesnake? Okay? Somebody that has a psychological disorder, has a true phobia, dreams of them, sees them even when they're not there, and so, you know, they have a fear of spiders, and then the spiders are not only little, the spiders are humongous. And they begin to, you know, they're, you know, maybe a wife or a husband or somebody has this or somebody, and they go to tell somebody else, and they're telling the size of this spider. The spider is, you know, all of a sudden the size of a chihuahua or something, you know. So once again, it's always blown bigger. You know, it's what they call more grandiose, which means it's bigger than it really is. So the specific phobia, okay, so it's developed from personal or vicarious experiences for traumatic events. So the traumatic events cause the phobia to be bigger than life. But you had something happen with spiders or something happen with snakes. You know, even Judy had a phobia of blood because of the experience she had with the biology film, which doesn't seem like that should cause a problem. But what happened is blood became her fear, and she feared the danger when there was no danger. So phobias, a specific phobia, could be anything. Could be spiders, could be snakes, could be anything. Okay? And then we have a social phobia, fear of being called for some kind of performance that might be judged, using, speaking in public, meeting new people, anything where you might be judged, you form this social phobia. Now, what do people do when they have a social phobia? They do what? They retract back and they go away from people. Well, what's the best thing you can do to get over a social phobia? And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but the best thing you can do is be out around people. Isn't that something? That's the best thing you can do, is interact with others. And once again, let's go back to the biological deal. When you interact with other people, you have all the other senses giving you information. You know, sight, smell, touch, taste. And you have all those senses. And all those senses are coming in saying, everything's okay. You don't have anything to fear. And what if we don't use all those senses? Then what's left? Then it's our brain, and our brain is triggering our body to feel like there's something wrong. You know, they have all these new games out there, virtual reality, and you put these ideals on, or kind of a goggle thing, and you look around, and I've actually seen some of those, and they're really neat. But that's where your brain works. You know, they had a movie about that years ago, and some people were having a heart attack because it was so intense, and they got shot in that, okay, that their brain couldn't tell the difference. The brain couldn't tell the difference between real life. Well, that's really how it works. That's why that virtual entertainment stuff's kind of real, is because your brain can't tell the difference. So your body, your brain can tell the difference. Whenever you get the stimulation in, all the brain does is interpret it. Okay? So it's so real that you see it. Well, that's what happens with anxiety and phobias. So we got to be careful. We got to get out. We got to go do other things besides isolate ourselves. Now let's talk about the other types of anxiety disorders. There's generalized anxiety disorder. That's uncontrollable, unproductive worry about everyday events. Okay? So generalized anxiety disorder is uncontrollable, unproductive worrying about everyday events. All right? So, maybe you're a real worrier, and that doesn't mean that you have any type of disorder. But what did it say? It was kind of interesting. It said uncontrollable, unproductive. All right. So what do we worry about? I think we all worry. Okay. I think we all worry. What is worry? Worry is the thought about something that doesn't exist yet. Wow. Worry is thought about something that doesn't exist yet. Why does that go over into anxiety? Because anxiety is a danger that doesn't exist. So if worry goes to danger, or goes to something that could endanger you, then that's an anxiety. Okay? So generalized anxiety disorders is uncontrollable, unproductive worry. Well, when is worry controllable and productive? Well, if I worry, I know I have a test coming up, okay, then I say to myself, okay, I need to do this and this and this and this and this, and once I get this done, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, I have to have a plan. Okay, so once I worry about it a little bit and then have a plan, then it's no longer uncontrollable. I'm controlling my worry. When is it unproductible? When nothing good comes out of it. So if I'm worried about doing good at a performance, or I have a job, a big thing in a job the next day, I'm presenting to a lot of people, I can take that worry, and the way it can become productive is I can think about what all I need to do to make it better, okay? I can think about what might go wrong and then try to avoid that, all right? But if it's just uncontrollable and unproductive, all right, then we have an anxiety, okay? And if we're doing that 30 consecutive days, we have a generalized anxiety disorder. You can see how dangerous that would be. And then the other one is obsessive compulsive disorder is also a type of anxiety disorder. So OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And this is fear of unwanted or intrusive thoughts or obsessions, okay? So we have these things like one of our case studies was washing hands. And we talked about this guy going to college who had to wash his hands all the time. So now what happens is he has a fear of unwanted and intrusive thoughts always in his head. You know, if your obsessive compulsive disorder is germs, then what's the anxiety that thought's in your head all the time? So once again, you can be OCD for anything. You can be OCD for pictures being straight on a wall, you know. But it's once again, what's the problem? If it's uncontrollable and unproductive. If your fear is pictures not being straight on a wall, and you walk into a room and you straighten the pictures, and then you're done, that's great. But when you leave the house and you keep thinking, I wonder if my pictures are straight, then that's uncontrollable and unproductive. Okay? So once again, OCD is the second type of other anxiety disorders. And the third one, okay, is post-traumatic stress disorder. Fear of re-experiencing a traumatic event. Now, I want to talk about this because this is really real, because this could be, somebody, post-traumatic stress syndrome is very common in people coming back from the war when they've been involved in a lot of people, being shot, and they've had to do things, that they don't want to remember. It could be a rape victim. It could be anything that's bad. Your house burnt down, somebody died. It could be anything. So what do? We have this fear that it's going to happen again. Okay. So that's the post-traumatic stress disorder that we have to have. We have to convince ourselves. Once again, we're talking about the total anxiety deal. So we're worried about a danger that doesn't exist. So in post-traumatic stress, we have to say, this is not going to happen again. This is not going to happen again. And that's where we need that assurance that we're going to be okay. All right. So let's just, in a nutshell, let's redo anxiety disorders. Once again, anxiety disorders, you have to go back and watch these two tapes. We'll have a test over anxiety disorders. But once again, it's overwhelming tension, apprehension, or fear when there is no actual danger. We talked about the biological part of that, the social part of that. And then we said that there's three types of anxiety disorders: panic disorders, phobias, and then other types of anxiety disorders. Under phobias, we had agoraphobia, specific phobia, and social phobia. And then other types of anxiety disorders, we had generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and post-traumatic stress syndrome. So be sure to watch those. That's the types of questions you'll have. But once again, it helps us to look at anxiety in terms of stress, in terms of worry, what an abnormal disorder looks like, but probably even more than that. What we need to do if we experience a little bit of these in our lives to assure ourselves that the danger is not there, to get around other people, and to get influence from all our senses rather than just our brain telling us that we're in serious trouble. So pretty interesting chapter there, but that's anxiety disorders.